I would submit, if you are at the point where you're already running adaptive SNOP, which is like step 4 or 5, and you have like one part of the organization running in that way and another part of the organization running in the traditional way, what you have in fact is 2 different businesses.
In my experience on that, once business 1 gets up and running, business 2 looks over the shoulder, business 2 wants it. And so they don't remain 2 companies for very long. And Brian, I think you've got experience of what you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, we've just applied it to finished goods at the moment, not back into our manufacturing supply chain at all. But once we started doing it at cables, then everyone else looked at it and said, yeah, actually, we'd like a piece of that. And our overall business, as I showed on the slide, we've got a retail operation, engineering operation. Once we start in one area, then everyone else who wants to get on board, and as do now our supplier base as well, because they've seen it and said, yeah, we like the look at that.
Well, and actually what you're looking at here is really starting to question, how frequently can I change over that brewery? How long does it take me to make a batch of beer? What tends to happen sometimes, I'm actually familiar with beer, actually did some work up with Coors, Colorado, and so it's really how big is the brew vessel, and then how is that then packaged? So there's usually some kind of a decoupling point there, albeit quite small in time. And do you have to run consecutive batches of the same brew, or can you run different batches? So it all gets back to basically your same question as the process industry. So that is what that connection is between the adaptive SNOP and the demand-driven operating model. That's the PD-SNOP connection piece. Because the more frequently the smaller batch I can build the beer in, the closer I can do it to consumption, which is a good thing, because beer doesn't have to wait 10, 15 years to age. I mean, imagine the whiskey people. Because that's why you and I spent some time in Ireland, and I asked the Irish, I said, you know, is it really age 15 years, or do you guys have some acceleration because it's 15 years old? So imagine that in your environment. So the beer people think, you got a tough time? Try doing whiskey that's got to be 15 years age before you can put it on the shelf. So relatively, your product life cycle time or your production time is much shorter. So the faster that you can change over from one beer to another, and then understanding what the implication of the brew batch is to the packaging batch, that gives you capability. And I would challenge that you look at your costs based only on contribution margin, which is variable cost, because your plant, your equipment, and your people are all fixed cost. So don't fully load those costs when you're saying, I'm going to minimize my cost. What you really want to do is you want to maximize your contribution margin per unit of your constrained capacity instead. So it re-looks at your process and figures out how you can get to the smallest batch possible, because that's best for flow, but do it affordably.
So I think it's a really interesting question as well, which ties into your demand-driven SNOP, the question of when I exceed capacity, I have a choice of do I make or do I switch supply. And the output from your demand-driven SNOP process is going to be an adjustment to your buffer. The two are talking to each other. So the output of an SNOP and the demand-driven SNOP is my lead time going to change, or do I need to build, which goes into your operating model, which will then feed back into your SNOP process. So it's this final cog in the middle, the SNOP, which is going to help drive your buffer sizing and your strategic buffering to ensure you have the inventory available through buffer management as a result.
And that also varies by season as well. Because if you think about it, in the summertime we sell more beer than we do in the wintertime typically. So in the summertime I'm going to build in bigger batches. I'm not going to try to transfer batches as frequently, because every time I transfer a batch, then I have a setup. So I want to do as few possible setups as I can in the height of my season, which is totally counterintuitive. You know, you say, well, no, I want to do lots of little batches during season. No, you don't. You want to do big batches during season, but you want to run the stuff that is the stuff you're not sure if you're going to sell or not. So you start to adjust the batch size based on what consumption is over time, because in the off season you can afford to set up more. You can lose more time on the capacity constraint by changing over more frequently. So in the winter time, except for Oktoberfest, you know, that you can maybe set up more frequently, so your beer is going to be fresher. It's going to circulate through. So it still keeps the full utilization of your equipment, but at the same time, it allows you to do higher variety.
You know, I was just going to add to that. I think sometimes whether you actually use source A or source B is a last-minute thing. sometimes it could be at the point of the actual sort of execution where you want to go for a different supplier. And if that is your business, then you need to set up your inventory buffer such that you understand both sources of your supply. The response time, how long it's going to take, the size of the MOQ, etc. And the inventory buffer needs to actually understand both of those two sources of supply, so that if at the point of actually raising the order, you want to go to a secondary source of supply, then you can do it. But you need to build it in that thinking when you set the system up.
Okay, I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle, because I may have interpreted the question completely differently, or wrongly, maybe. But I think what I'm hearing is that and it comes back to the fundamentals of DDMRP and DDAE, which is justify and produce giving a return on investment. And you're reaching a point where there's a crossover, a return on investment, as the capacity requirements increase and decrease over seasonality, which comes exactly back into the whole demand-driven S&OP process, which looks at that return on investment of buffers being positioned at various points in the supply chain. And as your requirements grow and decline through seasonality, your cost base grows and declines because of the brewery you happen to be using to supply. There'll be a certain point where it makes ROI sense in the macroeconomics to say it makes more sense to source from this brewery than this brewery, and there'll be data to support that. So yes, if I'm interpreting your question correctly, yes, it's very relevant to demand-driven MRP and demand-driven adaptive enterprise, because it goes to the heart of ROI, which is what it's all about.
So where we got to, probably only in about the last 2 weeks, so we scheduled in our supplier visits, supplier roadshow, and then kind of started thinking about, okay, so how do we present DDS&OP, DDMRP to our supplier base? How do we sell the benefits to them? And it kind of struck us that, well, actually, within the four walls of BT, we might be demand-driven, but then to our supplier, what are we going to do? We're going to give them a forward simulation of the buffers that in effect is a forecast, that they're going to plan to a forecast and are now back in a push-to-forecast model. So we've got an interface there between the four walls of BT is demand-driven, but then we're going back to a forecast push with our supplier base. So that kind of was one of those light bulb sort of moments that said, actually, what we need to do is really push this back into our supplier base now and sell the benefits and encourage them to adopt the principles. And one of the suppliers we were talking to yesterday is a big VMI supplier of ours. So at the moment they get a demand forecast that's crazy. They've got too much stock in our warehouse that they're paying for. They're being beaten over the head for the items where they've not got enough stock in our warehouse. So it was a very, very, very straightforward conversation to say, yeah, explain this to us, help us to understand how we calculate buffers. Actually, let's work together on how we calculate the buffers, and then actually use those then to drive the levels of stock that they hold on a BMI basis in our warehouse. And it is kind of a similar conversation with the stock suppliers as well, in terms of we'll share with them our buffer positions on finished goods. So from a replenishment point of view, they know what the priorities are and what the true demand signals are, rather than giving them a forecast. And we're suddenly demand driven in BT, but forecast push when we get back to the suppliers.
Erik?
Yeah, I would just add a couple of things. First of all, we've seen with our clients that once they implement DDMRP in their environment, that they find oftentimes that their worst suppliers become some of their best. And it's a reflection of the fact that their suppliers were suffering so much from the bullwhip effect in our clients' environment that they were having a hell of a time keeping up with the disruptions, the up and down changes in the supply signal that they were getting from the client. So all of a sudden they get a much more clean signal, a much more predictable signal, and it stabilizes their end of the operation. So you get a benefit just kind of naturally out of that, which is great. The other thing that I would just, and this kind of gets down into the buffer logic itself, but Carol talked about the green zone helps you understand average order size and average order frequency. If we take the green zone size divided by the average rate of usage, that tells us how often we're going to issue a supply order. The size of the green zone is what the average order size is going to be. And so now all of a sudden you can sit down with your suppliers in a collaboration mode and say, yeah, you know, for this item, we believe we'll issue 8-10 orders a year. It's going to be roughly this size and roughly on these kind of intervals. And today, in the MRP environment, a lot of people struggle to try to get just those operational metrics kind of on the same page with their suppliers. And it goes right into the MOQ discussion as to discounting and things like that. Since what they care about is the volume for the year, yes, some of them are going to care about setups and what have you, but if they know you're going to buy 100,000 units over the course of the year and you can give them a manageable signal, you can get great benefits. The final piece is once you give them visibility to your stock positions of that item at the front end of your system, now they have the opportunity to take advantage. Let's say they have a hole developed in their schedule because somebody else just canceled an order out of their own bulletin, right? Now they may run a short batch just because they have visibility to that buffer status, knowing you're getting close to signaling another order. So there's a lot of opportunity when you get down into the guts of the mechanics of the way the buffers work as to how you can change the dialogue you have with your suppliers in a real productive way.